Okay, this time we're going to call to order the special meeting of August 9th, 2021. Vice Mayor Resendez, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velazquez,
Here.
Councilmember Perez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Resendez,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
City Manager Miller,
Here.
City Attorney Epperson,
Here.
Police Chief Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you. Posting for the agenda for the City of Hollister City Council meeting of August 9th, 2021 was posted on the bulletin board on August 5th, 2021 at 4:24 PM per Government Code Section 54956. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item A1.
Thank you, Mayor. The first one we'll start out with, and we'll just do it pretty much in order of how it was agendized, is the San Mateo County Animal Control Contract. This contract just extended July 1st for another 2 years, so we have 2 years left on it. So in June of 2023, and the county pays 50% of our animal control expenditures. If there is a desire, oh, whoops, I got it. Hand signals that I got the number wrong. What was that again? Chief?
55%.
55%. So I'm sorry, whatever. That's what I had written down. So I'm sorry if I said it wrong. And if we want to terminate the contract, it has a 60-day termination clause. So I think we're just open for questions. We don't have any really set style on these items.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, is there an opportunity maybe to negotiate a equitable and fair contribution for the SNP bus as the city did this year? I know that it seems like we carried the lion's share of that, and so I would like to see maybe that included.
Yeah, we definitely can do that.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'd like if we can get some data to the council members as to where the calls are coming from, how many are within the city, how many are within the county, just to ensure that, that our data represents or reflects what our contract is stating and they're paying their fair share. So if we can get some numbers to us, that would be very much appreciated.
Any other questions? Let's go back to SNP bus. I know the conversation for a while was if the county was not going to contribute, then the funds would go for residents of the city.
Correct.
Is that?
We have
Have you
not
heard any more at
implemented that yet. I mean, that was the issue was, it was
Gonna give
kind
them
of
time.
humorous, but the feral cats did not know boundaries, and that's what when we did those additional services. But we'll push with the county on this one.
It's such an important program and
Correct.
it's a good deal for everyone.
Correct.
So, okay, no other questions? Do we have any public comments on this?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll move to the second one. I'll let you go through them, Mr. Manager.
No problem. So the next one is the county, San Mateo County contract for the housing coordinator. There is no number of days or years associated with this one, but currently the county pays 50% of the expenditures, and the termination clause on that contract is 90 days. And that person has been 50% with us for housing related items, and then 50% with the county, but the person is a city employee and is controlled by us. So that's all I have on that one.
Clarification, city, but but county reimburse
County
so
reimburses
much
us,
of
correct.
it. Okay, any questions from council?
Mayor Velazquez.
Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, of the 50% that is reimbursed by the county, is that a total comp reimbursement for Benny's as well?
Correct.
Thank you. And do we have any type of data that has been established as to what we've received for the work in this position?
No, but because when the employee works for the county, they're doing county projects. And then when they're working for us, they're doing the city projects. So there's not really any shared projects. So I'm not sure which data we would have.
So then when they're working with us, do they track their time and the results of what their actions are? Can we
that-
quantify what they do for the 50% of the time they work for the city?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we do have our timekeeping that we do. So we have that. And then I do know because the person monitors or housing grants or loans that we've done, that there are items that they have to do as part of our single audit for our federal programs that they have to do. So I mean, I do know of the items that they're working on, but Abraham is that person's supervisor if you had some additional questions.
Thank you. What is their total comp for this
Oh.
employee per year?
So I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
I would
Council.
appreciate that. The purpose for my question is I'm wondering if we wouldn't just simply benefit more by having a full-time employee sole sourcing the city of Hollister. I mean, we have serious needs
Correct.
and I would rather move in that direction if the council supported that thought. So those are my comments and questions. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you,
Mayor
sir.
Velasquez, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I 100% wholeheartedly agree with you, Councilmember Burns. From my experience being here the last few years, this position has probably lobbied, I would say, for more county housing aggressively. We've made several requests to address some pretty critical issues, such as an inclusive, affordable housing implementation that did not get done. It was kicked down the road. And from my experience, the only thing that I've seen out of this position was the grants, but I would rather much have an in-house person under Abraham full-time focusing on that and possibly with some other things in planning department. This just is not a good contract and it hasn't worked out for us. And if the county feels differently, then they can take on the contract. So I 100% agree with you and I support terminating this contract and hiring a full-time person within for planning department to do this job.
Thank you, sir. I would agree also. I think we have a lot of needs in the city. I was pretty disappointed to find the request year after year to put together an affordable housing program never was implemented after numerous requests, and to find basically more information coming back as far as what the county wanted instead. And it's like, we're already suffering here and we need to be focused in our own community here and implement some of these programs. So I totally do agree with both yourself and the vice mayor.
Sorry. Based on the contract, the position was supposed to pay between 57,500 to almost 70,000 for salary. So you, depending on the person is, say, a family, that can be another 24,000 in medical, and then retirement is probably another, say, 20,000 on that. So we're probably looking at 100.
125 in.
Yeah,
All
at
in.
the most.
We're not making any decisions now. We're just giving some of our recommendation, understanding some of the contracts. That's the purpose.
Correct, yeah, to give
Correct.
us direction. So if you want us to, I mean, let's just say you want to get out of the contract, I'll contact the county and start that process.
Do we have any-
I would definitely support that.
do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to item number 3, sir.
Okay. Okay, so the next one is the San Mateo County Economic Development Corporation. So the contract was 5.25 years. We have another 3 years left on it. So the contract ends June 2024. We provide them $100,000 a year. The county provides another 100,000. And the termination clause on that one is 180 days. And the idea was for the EDC to help bring different businesses in. And I think all the council members have seen their presentations from Mark Fontes from EDC. So just available for questions.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, I have seen the presentations. What have they done? I've really not seen any direct benefit to the city for $100,000 a year. And my understanding is this the third year of that contract?
We've gone about 2.25 years.
Okay, so we're committed though for full term would be another,
3 years.
yeah.
But I mean, like I said, we can get out of it and with 180-day notice.
Right, yeah. My recommendation to the council would be that we terminate this contract in 6 months. And I would like to explore other alternatives. We definitely need economic development. But I've not heard or seen anything that suggests to me that we've gotten our value for our investment. Thank you.
And I'll add on that. Abraham and myself and a few other different staff members, we're having conversations with different players, and their big thing is they want promises from city staff to get things done. So a lot of them that are coming, they've already have their plan. But their plan is they want promises so they can get their projects done. Penn and Tony doing the Amazon project, they came last November and said, can you promise to do everything you can so that we can be done in November? And they're going to be done hopefully at the beginning of, that's right. Can we be done in September? And they're hoping to be done beginning of September and probably in operations by the end of September.
I can say I truly appreciate the spirit of cooperation. And it seems like as opposed to wrapping people up in red tape, we really need to be rolling out the red carpet for people that want to do business here that would be conductive for us doing our meeting our community needs.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, to a point, probably spending that money on a planner or another engineer to make sure that these projects get done timely as the developers, the commercial developers want, that would probably be more important.
Even possibly an ombudsman, a business
Correct.
ombudsperson.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
That's it, sir. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Resendez.
Thank you. Again, I 100% agree with you. I didn't support the contract in the beginning for a number of different reasons. I was a pretty harsh critic of theirs. But time has shown that this is not a good contract for us. I think this is a field that requires some type of specialist or a specialty to really go out there, to really advocate strongly and to show us the businesses that they brought in to help generate revenue that are a good fit for our community. And I know that our staff is very accommodating and they do a fantastic job. The Amazon deal was just one thing that they got done, but I think we can do more. So again, I'm open to suggestions. I would like to cut this contract if we can, and we can either contract with a specialist that does this, or we can hire internally somebody that's going to solely focus on EDC, because this is critical and it's going to do so much for our city if we get the right people on board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, I agree. I did not support this originally. Had my concerns, and it's time to cut this contract, move forward, whether it be someone in-house, as was mentioned here, to process some of these applications much sooner than some of them were processed, but also I think the biggest part is the commitment. A business wants to come in, they want to be speaking to the city. There's no reason to go around in circles to different groups and talk about what they can do if they just come here. We're here as a city, and I think we can move much faster, and I think we can do much more as we move forward. And we now have made that commitment to bring in more commercial, industrial, and we're seeing it take hold now. And as it moves forward, we're going to have the staff enough members to process these applications and move them through and do all the other work we need to be taken care of to help bring more of those businesses. So I'm excited in the direction we're going, but the reality is it's because the city laid the groundwork and really has been taking the lead on the whole thing throughout this process. So I'd be in favor of that.
Yeah, I would just like to understand what it is we're going to be replacing them with before they're replaced. If it's not working, just change it to something, but I just would like to have a clearer vision of what it's going to look like that we're having in place.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. That's an excellent point. I just think that the one setback is that we have a time crunch that we have to start the process. And I can just tell you from my experience that we haven't been getting much return on our investment either way. So I think that we start that process now, and then we start those conversations. And even if there's like a little bit of an overlap, I think that the benefit far outweigh the risk at this point. And I would really advocate, and I'm glad to see that everybody else is on board to start terminating these contracts and start those discussions as soon as we can.
I could say when we had these discussions, one of the things I pointed out was we could use that money to have a firm or a specialist promote our community, let them know we have commercial industrial space here. Come visit us. We'll show you different properties and we'll help you through the process from the first day and we get you open. And I think that's where the ball was dropped, because then it became we're going to go try to find some people, but it never really happened to the scale we need, because we do have properties ready. As I pointed out, there's 1,500 acres already for commercial and industrial in our city. What we have to do is focus on filling those 1,500 acres by letting firms know that we have this ability to move them in quick, process quickly, and get them going in. Right now in today's time and age, it's about speed of processing to get those businesses in. I think that's why these other firms that are coming in now, that's why they're coming in. And if we're letting the people know that, more than will follow. And I don't think we should be going, as I said, on these different directions. We just need to be focused on bringing to that area and seeing what else we need. We've talked about this also, making sure some of these other areas are prepared plan-wise, zoning-wise, so when they do come through, it's all ready to go. We're not held up any longer. That's what I think would be the answer. And then, of course, it was mentioned, I think, planning what the staffing requirements are going to need. We just need a larger plan on what's required, what we're still missing to get these applications processed as quickly as possible.
Correct.
Okay. Any speaker cards on that?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next one is the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. They also were a 5.25 year contract. We have 3 years left with them. The contract ends June of 2024. We contribute $52,500 per year, and their clause is 180 days also. The chamber helped us with the Parklet program. They've actually been helping us with planning our 150-year presentation, and is also another one that is supposed to promote business or tourism within the county.
Thank you. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, I'm just going to say for the record that I believe we are seeing our value in this investment, and I do support maintaining that contract based on what I've heard and what I've witnessed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I respectfully disagree. And again, they came at the same time with the EDC to ask, and I might have supported this contract, I believe, because I had hoped that we would see a good return on our investment. So I do not support, and I know it's very taboo to say that we should not have a Chamber of Commerce. My understanding is, I think I could be speaking not correctly here, but I think the city of San Juan Bautista also is no longer contracting with them. I think that in my opinion, the chamber and the EDC do a lot of lobbying for the county's interests and needs, but I don't see a lot of return on investment within our city. So if we do choose to stay with them, then I would love to see more data and statistics and numbers showing that we made a good investment and we're getting return on our investment. So that would be my one feedback on this item, but I do not support staying with the Chamber of Commerce either.
Thank you.
I totally support the Chamber of Commerce. I love what they're doing to help promote our business downtown and also the counties, the wineries, all these different things. I like their vision that they're, I've sat in and see some of their meetings and I think not as many as I wanted to. But I truly support them. I think it's a good thing. Although, I can agree with you, Vice Mayor Resendez. It'd be neat to see exactly what all these contracts are doing for us, whether it's quarterly, yearly. Yeah, something annually would be great. But yeah, I think they're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm personally torn between the two. Curious, City Manager, do you know what amount the county is contributing? Not to any tourism
I
package that
think
we're doing.
it's, yeah, I mean, I hear it from the chamber that, they're upset. They wish the county would contribute the same amount that we contribute. So
It's
I
not,
believe it's like 25 or
it's
30,000.
not equal to what,
Correct.
okay. That was kind of my concern because, early on when we were trying to make some of these things happen, it was how do we work together to promote together to do things? And then once again, it was us footing the bill. I was at this time, I was quite frustrated with the chamber, and for a while I was frustrated with our own downtown association. But I have to say, downtown association has turned around, and I've been so impressed with what they've been doing. And I think I look at the downtown association as really an arm of the city, and they've been doing a great job. The county, I see it as an arm of the chamber. I see an arm as the county, and I think a lot of the work they've been doing has been good work, but it's more geared towards bringing in things to the county. And I guess what I'm asking for is seeing that commitment from the county, not just through us, because I think that's really important if this is ever going to work as far as a partnership. So I would say I'm still torn on this one. I'd like to see some goals. I'd like to see what's happening. I think some of the efforts to promote tourism really did not work out very well. And I was highly disappointed in some of the ad campaigns that went out with the money we spent in the past on it. I think, again, if we're going to stay here, we need to understand what that means with the county, because without the county's partnership, it doesn't make sense for us, again, to be promoting county issues when we need to be focused on, again, bringing business here into our own downtown or our own community first, and then working with the county. I need to see that. I haven't seen that yet, and I want to know where the county's going. That's where I'm torn.
Okay.
Councilmember Burns, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, do we know, is the city of San Juan Bautista contribute to the chamber?
Yeah, my understanding is they do not contribute at this time. The chamber has been trying to get them to contribute, but for some reason they are not contributing.
Thank you. And did I hear you say that the city contributes about twice as much as the county?
I believe so.
Well, I guess I would change my perspective to a certain degree. I agree with both the mayor and vice mayor. But if we're paying 2/3 of the money that is contributed, maybe we should get 2/3 of the benefit of their commitment. And maybe, do we have a MOU with them that clearly defines what specifically the expectations are or frames that?
Yeah, I don't believe the MOU speaks from the county's perspective. I'm not a chamber expert, but I believe some of their other funding sources is from their membership also and sponsors. So we're only a piece of their revenue source, but it sounds like the council's somewhat split on this. So what I can do is try to see if we can get maybe an ad hoc committee together for a couple of county members sorry, and maybe a couple council members in the chamber to explain their goals or the goals of the different agencies, or at a minimum, if the county doesn't want to participate, I'll do a special meeting with the chamber and the council to at least maybe have a good sit down with them and discuss how they're funded, how their goals are, and maybe the different things how we benefit from them.
I appreciate that. I just want to say, I'm frustrated by the fact that we seem to always pay the lion's share of things. And if we're gonna pay for it, then it would be good to have some clearly defined expectations framed so that there are performance measures and metrics that could be established to see, because again, we've got another 3 years to go on this, correct?
Correct.
So I think that would be good, and I look forward to hearing what comes of that. Thank you, sir.
No, no problem.
Any other questions, comments? Any speakers on this? Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, the next one is the Hollister Downtown Association. We have a 5-year contract with them, and we have 1 more year left on it, so it expires June of 2022. We contribute $75,000 per year to them. Their termination clause is 90 days. But HDA is also another member that is helping us with planning our 150-year celebration. They helped us also with the Parklet program. And as of last Saturday night, they also helped us with the street closure and working with getting businesses aware of the activities that we are doing downtown.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'll be the first to admit that I was one of the harshest critics when the HGA was under the direction of the past 2, I think, EDs. Because I was a business owner at the time, and then I became a council member, and I did not see them living their mission, so to speak, right? But when Corey came on board, she really adapted. She partnered with the city. She was so flexible during COVID. And that's what I want to see from our partners. I want to see return on investment. I want to see numbers, and I want to see the businesses. I've got to see this. And she doesn't meddle, in my opinion, like some of these other agencies do, too politically on measures or one way or the other, which I really appreciate. She stays neutral, and she just does her job. And all of the businesses I've talked to are very happy with her. All of the events that I see are just fun, uplifting, positive events, and she works hard. So I don't know if you guys have heard or not, but she's planning on leaving the HGA, which I'm really saddened to hear about. But since Corey has been there, I've just seen so much adaptability, so much advocacy, so much flexibility. I've really been happy with them. Like the mayor said, I feel like they really are an extension of the city. So I can't say enough things about the HGA. I'm really a big fan of theirs. Thank you.
Councilman Byrne?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything Vice Mayor said. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to be part of the recruitment or the hiring of the next director for HDA. I don't know that would be our role, but she certainly set the bar very high, and certainly everything I've heard about HDA during the 6 months I've been on council or so are very positive. It's starting, everything just kind of feels like things are starting to come together nice, and I think they're a big part of that. And frankly, I wouldn't mind actually giving less to some and more to others. And maybe we look at giving a greater amount of money for them to accomplish the missions that we would like to mutually see come to fruition. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, Mayor, to comment on that, seeing how the HGA seems like they have me on every committee that they have, I'm sure we will be participating in that selection process also.
The HDA is doing an exceptional job. And we will miss Corey, but you know what? One of the great things about Corey is she's set a process and, not only a standard high, but she's already put this, the other staff. Corey's done a wonderful job, but I think all the other staff that's been in place also is Terry, Jen, and all the other, our new, I can't think of their names, Bree and her, they're all doing a wonderful job over there. They, I'd like to see, I see where before there was a little separation between chamber and HDA, and I see that coming together more so. It's not nothing major, but I, especially working with them for the 150th birthday party, I see them working together, and it truly makes me happy inside to see that they're coming together to do such a great thing for our city. And so, yeah, I totally support this and possibly increase it, moving stuff around or whatever.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of when there was a conversation going on, I don't know who mentioned it. We should not be supporting any groups that are mixed up in politics. If they're getting to the point of endorsing this or endorsing, it really poisons the well all the way around. And I think we should make that a policy. If any of the groups we're working with get involved in politics, we should not be funding them. It just became a mess. I've mentioned several years back, I was extremely disappointed with the Downtown Association. I was a previous president of the Downtown Association, and I can remember almost 20 years ago, trying so hard to bring outdoor dining to the downtown. And we were making progress. And as I left, it became, nobody wants to eat outside. Are you crazy? And year after year, I pushed and pushed. Let's bring outdoor dining. This is where people want to be. And it just became worse and worse and worse as far as no, no, no. Then it became an issue of, if you ask the business owner, have you spoken with the HCA? The answer was basically, who's the HCA? I mean, they forgot about their membership. But in the last year, I have to say, I've been so extremely happy with the Downtown Association. Omar, you might be part of that. You all those times you tried to stop me and have conversations, but it turned around, and it's turned around in a way that I'm just absolutely the happiest mayor there is at having the Downtown Association in our community. I personally would think it's time to increase the budget, because it's time to work towards our next phase of outdoor dining, outdoor activities. So we're bringing in festivals as much as possible, art or so on, week after week after week, which is going to make more people want to visit our community. And again, positive events. And I think we're going to need that help to make that happen. And,
Mayor, I will echo it. We just had our department head meeting just a couple hours ago, and that was staff's request. Can we get help from outside agencies like HDA? This is the first time they're hearing about, HDA's hearing about the request. But we do need, like, when we do our Saturday closures, staff is, I mean, that's an additional item that they have not kind of programmed into their schedules yet. So yeah, we do need that additional help. So.
and I have to say again, no one can claim this outdoor dining has not been a major success for us. And you might not know this, but other communities are trying to follow what we're doing and asking how we did it. And I just say over and over, because we've been talking about it for 20 years. So we had all the ideas ready. But we're going to need that lead person that can help us through it. That partnership that just happened this weekend with the rec department, HCA, again, shows what we can do. They are constantly meeting with businesses here in downtown. And the sense I get from most businesses are they're extremely happy right now in our downtown. So I think this is a conversation we need to have, a deeper conversation, figure out how we could give them the support they're going to need to bring in those events. If not on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, that's the goal, right? So let's see what we can do. And I, again, thank you, HDA. And I'm so pleased to be so wrong in the past. So let me just put it that way. Full supporter now. Go HDA.
Actually, if I may, because I walk through downtown and I like talking to the business owners also. One thing I find is that they are all informed about what's going on. And that is huge because that gives them an opportunity to participate and to make it that much better of bringing people downtown to get people out of the house and also to just for Hollister to be Hollister. It's friendly and fun. And yeah, so great job.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing, and I completely agree, is that we do need to revisit the contract, but we need to revisit it to possibly increase the amount of money that we're giving to them. And hopefully if the board's willing to, and if the staff's willing to take on some more responsibility and to help us even more. Again, I think, I echo what my colleagues are saying, that they've proven to be a vital partner to us, and I 100% support them. And I'm appreciative of what they've done for us, especially this past year. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers on this?
I have someone logged in, but her hand is not raised, so I
Okay.
have no speakers on this item.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is Four Leaf. Their contract is ongoing. There's no really end date or their agreement is that they get 65% of our planning fees the building inspection fees that they bring in. There's a 10-day clause. I will say, based on what council gave me direction during the fee discussion, to go back and talk to Four Leaf. They have agreed to give us a bigger percentage. They would requested the split to be 57.5% for them and 42.5% to us. Like I say, in prior discussions that we've said, when it comes to building inspections, when the residential and even commercial business kind of goes as a yo-yo, the nice thing about having a contract service is they're responsible for having to lay people off when the development industry takes a nosedive. I know when I was at before here, Butte County, there was during the start of the Great Recession, they couldn't lay off building inspectors fast enough. And I know that's what happened in discussions. That's what happened here. And that's when they switch over to Four Leaf. They're able to staff up quicker than we can. They can pull from different cities that they're providing services for. So if it's a heavy inspection day, they can bring the other inspectors in, or if it's a slow day, they can send them out to other places, which if we had a staff of ourselves, they would just be sitting around. We'll find them some work, but basically that we're not having them do what we need them to do. So questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Burks.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, do we know what Four Leaf generates on an annual basis? How much money of this previous 65%, what does that equal in dollars?
It's probably about 650,000 a year.
650,000 a year. What's a building official's salary total comp on an average per year?
It's probably 125 to 150,
And a building inspector?
probably the same thing.
So,
Roughly. I'm just at ballparking.
so we could actually have full-time employees that we'd have 100% control of. And if we only needed to start with a building official and a building inspector, we would be plus $400,000.
That's the share that they take from us. We get another, the other, let's say.
No, I understand that, but if we're paying them $650,000 a year, and we could have a building inspector and a chief building official for,
So what they will have here on every day is they have 2 counter people. They have their lead person. And so that's just the 3 that are here every day. And they all have inspectors from say 2 to, I think I've seen about 15 out there waiting to go out. So there's quite a few inspectors in Hollister at a time. I can get that information from you too.
I'd be interested to see what they're actually, the number of hours a year they spend in Hollister, because I
Okay.
think that's really the conversation
Okay.
to figure it out, because I think it's pretty clear that I prefer full-time employees to contracts whenever possible.
Right.
And so it'd be helpful for me to understand that, but I'm not sold on Four Leaf, and it's got nothing to do with them or their quality or their service. It's got everything to do with $650,000 a year is a lot of bucks. And if we could have full-time employees, I would much prefer that. Thank you. Those are my comments for now, and I look forward to additional information being provided.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I support your position, Councilmember Burns, I think, but it's important if we're going to really look at that we need to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, so to speak. I don't know if one, I think you said administrator, and then one person under him is enough to cover the amount of work that was done within that past year. So I think we really need some more information to get a good look at that and to make that that decision, right? How many people were actually servicing us, and then how much calls did we get? So I think that we need to, in order to make a more informed decision, then we should probably look at the data a little bit better. But I'm definitely open to that. And again, I've got nothing against Ford Leaf. I'm just simply exploring options to advocate for the interests of our citizens.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll get the number of hours per year. Also, we'll go back and see the revenue over, say, the last 10 years or something like that, so that we have an idea of the volatility of using them.
Perfect. What I would, as it relates to the number of hours per year, I think it'd be very helpful to know how much counter time for a permit tech, how many hours a year are we actually using a building official, and then building inspectors, whether it be a standard building inspector, as in a residential or a combination, or I think that would just be helpful. My sense is a lot of the inspections are going through these new subdivisions.
Correct.
And, I'm encouraged by the fact that we were able to knock them off to 65%, but, again, I'm thinking bigger is better for us. And so I don't know how open they are to the conversation. The other thing is I'd also like to maybe explore other companies that provide similar services, because they are by no means the only one out there. And maybe we find that there are better deals to be had with, same level of service. I'd also like to know what their turnaround time is for a permit request to the time that they actually come rolling in. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm going to have to disagree with you guys on this one. I understand where you're going with it. And I think if we had the consistency, I would agree with you. I've watched Four Leaf, and I think was there another firm for a little while?
They were a different name. I'm sorry, that was almost 10 years ago.
I've spent a lot of time in building departments throughout the Bay Area. And what I've noticed about Four Leaf and some of these other companies now is their level of expertise. Sometimes a project can get pretty complicated, and you're going to need some different people on staff that can understand some of those different plans. I found them to be pretty good, not perfect. And I'm going to say up front, not perfect. I would think if you're going to be trying to do this, if we're going to try to do this on our own, you're looking at a staff of 6 to 7, probably 8 in reality to make it work. From what I've seen, what I see out there in different cities. And that makes it tough, because once it comes down, it's a hard thing to keep people working. And the last thing we ever want to do is lay people off. I never want to do that. We went through that those first couple of years being here that I was here, and it was the worst thing you can go through, especially because it was a lot of bad planning, not understanding the dynamics of an economy and what happens if you don't prepare for it and understand the ups and downs. I think they've done a good job, and I'm not opposed to, by the way, making sure we're bidding that out, and again, the best we can. But I think what sold me on a few of these were when there was a complex issue, they had staff in other offices that they were to get those answers. And where I know if we didn't, we would not be able to do it. And I lean more towards some of these, and you're seeing this happen throughout different, I run into Four Leaf in different cities all over the place now, and it's like, wow, you guys have really grown. So I know they have a bigger department somewhere that can handle some of these engineering questions. So
Yeah, and I would have to verify, but they're also saying that they're actually not having, there's not any really competition for them because people are they're going away from this type of business, or they're getting bought up by the bigger corporations. So,
and they, dealing with the state again with the code changes constant, and you were part of the, weren't you a code enforcement or not on the department back then? Yeah, so you understand, it's the law, the codes are changing so fast now, they're getting so complicated. It's it's getting tough to keep up with all the changes that are being required out there, and for good reason. Not everything I agree with what the state does on some of these codes, but we see things that really start to make sense down the road. So that's where I sit on this. But we should have conversation, and I would agree with that.
Okay.
Do we have any speakers?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
okay, real quick, I'll run through the next three, kind of like what their contract is, but staff was going to recommend that the next three actually be brought to the ad hoc committee to discuss, but they're pretty much all in sync. They're a 6-year contract with plus 3-year extensions are allowed. So we're about 4.5 years left on the contract. It ends December of 2025. Currently from the county, we get approximately $2 million a year, plus there's a 3% CPI increase. San Juan Bautista, they are about $242,000 with a 3% increase. And then we actually pay San Juan Bautista for the lease of their station at about $41,000 a year. And it's a 270-day termination with that one.
So we'll be talking about this through the ad hoc or what?
That is staff's recommendation, is to start with the ad hoc committee and have them discuss everything, because pretty much it all goes, you would say we keep the contract or we get rid of the contract. It all depends on what we do with fire. So I think that's where it kind of needs to go in the hands of the ad hoc committee to discuss where we're going with fire.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, I agree with the direction to take it to the ad hoc committee. I do have one question.
Sure.
In regards to the lease for $41,000 a year for the fire station in San Juan Bautista. And again, I'd much rather look for a piece of property to buy, to build a state-of-the-art fire station at, or buy this property, negotiate a deal to own the building versus $41K. It seems like over a period of time, that's a lot of money that you could eventually build something that would be state-of-the-art, I think. Thank you.
Charlie,
Thank you.
I might even have Charlie kind of explain that one. I do know we raised their contribution to us, kind of offset the same as the fire station. We just wanted more. We wanted control of the station because we were also serving the county out of it. We didn't want anybody to say, well, you have to run it. It's only the city services calls out of it. So I know it kind of gave us a little bit more clearer lines of separation, but I'll let Charlie take over.
Hi, I'm Charlie Badola. I am your acting fire chief. Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for having us up here. Yeah, I would suggest that we do bring it to the ad hoc committee because there's a lot of creativity that went into this. And once we get down there and we get into the books and the numbers, you'll understand what the rationale was on the thinking of how we did what and how we did this and why we're doing this to that. So once we bring it to the ad hoc committee, it'll open up your eyes a lot on how services are being provided to this community.
I guess I'll make a couple comments since I've been
Sure.
involved with this since day one when we all started down this path. And I have to say, the idea of having to pay anything more than $1 a month or a year to San Juan Bautista for their space really infuriates me. And I can remember when they were doing the remodel and how we were all working together back then and how exciting. I can remember them saying, this is going to be great because we're going to have this place for you guys. You guys will be able to use this and it's going to give our city more protection. And everybody was excited. And there was never this conversation and we're going to come back and start charging you rent. It was like, please, please, please work with us and do this for us. And we're going to get this facility for you. So
Absolutely, and I
say-
can address that at the ad
Yeah,
hoc, 'cause
and I will,
It's in detail.
yeah, and this
on
is
that.
all about numbers at the end of the day. And it's, I've stressed this many a times. The county's participation financially, again, very frustrating.
Well, just like I said, bring it to the ad hoc
We
committee
will.
and then you'll understand exactly
Oh, I
what's,
understand.
where the
You know-
numbers are at
You
and the
know, I've been
dollars
there
and cents. So
for quite a while
Yeah.
over these numbers, and I've pointed these numbers out time and time and time again. And I'm happy and I'm looking forward to the conversations.
yeah, I mean, you'll be surprised with the numbers. We have a lot of good numbers. And since you've been coming up and you keep hitting us and harping us on the justification, we've actually created some good numbers and we have some good charts that we can bring to you and some justification on that as far as call wise and just calls inspection wise and dollars split up, who's bringing in what also. So I'm actually excited to bring it to you guys, to the ad hoc and the council.
Yeah, just real quick. I just want, well, there's so many of you guys here. I just want to tell you, thank you for what you do. I'd love to see a clearer picture of everything that's going on because it's like spaghetti to me right now. But
Yeah,
it's like-
absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
if the ad hoc is open to, I mean, we absolutely have to get buy-off from the union board too. So if we find out who it is, we could have staff coordinate that meeting and we'll coordinate and schedule it as soon as possible, as soon as we want to get this. So we'll get it going, coordinate with the ad hoc committee and the union board, and then we'll move forward.
So I look forward to that. And again, thank you guys.
Perfect.
So, you
Thank
know,
you.
Councilmember Burns and I are on that ad hoc.
Okay.
And we'll start going through those numbers and understanding how it evolves, how it was created originally. And again, why it can work, but how it can fail. And that's again, as I said earlier, it's frustrating. The worst thing we can do as a community is have to lay off people because we don't understand long-term projections or numbers. And that's how we got into trouble in the past. Want to make sure we're clear and not end up in a bad situation.
Absolutely. And then you'll see that, you know, the fire department isn't that much of a drain and we've done our part and to be able to contribute also. So
It's not
we'll-
about being
we'll get
a
that.
drain. I want to make sure that everybody's clear on that. It's not the fire department's a drain. The fire department's needed. And this is why we put it together. It's when your partners figure they can just step aside and put it all to you. That's what gets me upset. And I've had these, not with you guys, I've had these conversations with supervisors. And when they laugh at us, it doesn't make me happy. It makes you really frustrated.
absolutely.
And that's not you.
And we'll,
guys. It's-
no,
it's-
like
it's
I said,
others.
I have all this justification. We'll be able to explain that. You'll understand. You have a really good understanding after we meet. So I'm looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on this? These three?
I have no speakers.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Rhodes.
So actually, I would like to go out of order a little bit, but just so that I have all the attorney stuff all in order. So I go to item number 14, the San Benito County Public Safety Answering Point or PSAP. I will, that one is we have a 1-year contract with 1-year automatic renewal. So we have 1 more year left. So it ends at the June of 2022. We pay approximately $76,000 a year for it. It's 180 days to end the lease or in the agreement. And I'll turn it over to the chief to try to explain this kind of a weird thing that we're paying for.
Yes, I think it's a 5-year contract and it's automatic renews for another 5 years if we don't cancel on time.
Correct.
It already did that one time. But just to give you a little bit of background, the PSAP, we needed to have this agreement once we move our dispatching services to Santa Cruz 911. The original dispatch center here has to be maintained. It's an emergency answering system. If the lines are ever cut or severed, dispatchers from Santa Cruz will come down to our original dispatch center and operate from there. They actually do that once a month on a regular basis, once a month to make sure everything's operational there. I discovered this contract back in 2014. My memo is attached to this report. And in it, I pointed out several areas where I thought that the contract was not equitable for the city. And among them was the fact that we were paying for a percentage of, well, first of all, we were paying 65% of everything, and that's based on the previous contract with the county. We were roughly 65% of the radio traffic in our old dispatch center. So we used to pay 65% of the cost of all the costs. That was one of the issues that we had with our costs for dispatching going up about 200% within 10 years. And one of the things that led us to go to Santa Cruz at the time. But in this contract, they have several items and cost items like T1 lines, repeater services, equipment that we had to pay 65% of the cost. And I pointed out in the memo that made sense when we were paying for dispatchers that were working harder for us versus the county. But what we were dealing with was machinery that was on or off. And the county sheriff's office needed that machine on just like we did. So that the more equitable thing would be to 50%. And in addition to that, they had staff that were supposed to be there, and we were paying 65% of that person's staff, the cost of having that person. The county advised us that Santa Cruz 911 wanted a person there, and that's why the cost of that person was there. When we met with Santa Cruz 911, they said they never wanted anyone there. As a matter of fact, they would like it for the doors to remain locked and nobody to go in there at all. Similar to their PSAP in Watsonville, where even though it's at the police department, they're the only ones with the key. They reported that they've gone in there several times and finding things out of place, and they would prefer nobody to be in there. So in my memo, I addressed that, and we've been paying, up until that point, we were paying 65% of the cost of an individual that was supposed to be there. In our initial negotiations, they admitted that they had never hired anyone for that purpose, but they were still charging the city that fee. In addition to that, they were charging us janitorial fees for that room when, as you recall, the Santa Cruz dispatchers were there only one day out of the month and only for a few hours. And they advised they didn't need anybody to go in there and clean because they would take any trash that they took in there themselves. We were paying for stationery, paper, over $1,000 a year for stationery, and Santa Cruz 911 said, we bring our own stationery. So all of these things, suffice to say, they were charging us $70,000, and according to our analysis, we should have only been paying about $25,000. The issue was brought up, and off and on over the years, they have met with us to try to discuss this to get a more equitable contract. But when we get close, then the meetings stop, and it just keeps getting pushed back. In 2019, I think it was, we received simply a new invoice. And the new invoice said that we went again and analyzed the costs, and the costs are actually $90,000 a year, but we'll take your recommendation and only charge you 50% of that. So they want $45,000 instead of the 75 or that we were paying. Throughout this whole time, we've been asking to meet together to come to a more equitable contract. And instead of meeting with us and discussing this, they came up with this proposal on their own. They included a memo, an analysis from OES, an OES report that's part of the report as well. There are several inaccuracies in that report. I believe that was conducted by Kevin O'Neill, who doesn't work for the county anymore. So my recommendation has always been to terminate the contract and get a more equitable contract for the city and the county where it's a fair operation, and includes Santa Cruz 911, because When we speak to them, they're advising us that all the equipment that's in the PSAP is actually theirs. And there should be very minimal cost of this whole program. And there is repeater sites that need to be maintained. But the city should only be paying for repeater sites that we actually use, not the county. One of the things that they came back with the report is that our fire department does use the repeater sites out in the county. But when they do that, they're fighting their fires. So it seems odd that it's similar to charging a lease to the fire department that we're using for them. The bottom line is we would like to, our staff would recommend that we terminate this contract or at least meet together to get a more equitable contract and have those parties come together and discuss all these issues that are here.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, what would it take to create our own communication center? I know a number of years ago, there was one over in the county building and I think it was a shared facility. But, and I know we're a small police department, but I come from a small police department that originally dispatched out of County Communication, Santa Clara County. Ultimately, at the time, Chief Todd, as I recall, pushed forward to have a communication center established for the town of Los Gatos. And it was costly to start with, but over time, number one, it gave us complete control. And number two, it gave us 24/7 dispatch service. And I think it provided a higher level of service for our community. And I would be really interested in seeing some sort of a study to see if it's something to phase into feasibly. Again, it sounds to me like we're being taken unfair advantage of. And if people know that we have options, then they're more inclined to want to play ball with us. But I wouldn't ask for the study to be done simply for leverage. I would like to really know, because we're going to continue to grow and our needs are going to continue to increase. And I think that there's value to putting that out there, maybe in your complex or your facility, if it was possible, to meet our needs. And knowing that it's a 24-hour service, there may be other options available during the quiet times for that staff to do other things as well. And so I would like to see that. I know that's probably a mountain of work, but I presume there's probably some templates out there that could serve us. And so thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Those are my thoughts and comments.
Quick question for clarification. Do you mean like for 911 calls?
Yes, for 911.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Burns, we've actually been thinking about that, thinking ahead on that. It's one of the things I was going to bring up when Mayor advised that we report to you on a more regular basis. Having our own dispatch center would bring a tremendous amount of benefits to our services to our community. For instance, the downtown cameras that we have right now, many agencies that have cameras like that have their dispatchers with access to those cameras. So when there's a call for service in an area where there's a camera, they can turn that camera on if they don't have it on already and guide our officers in and tell our officers what actually is going on or what's being captured on that camera. Currently, our dispatchers in Santa Cruz don't offer that. They don't, that's not one of the services that they have agreed to. Having a dispatch center and our PD would mean it would become a 24-hour facility. So even at night, if somebody goes to the facility seeking help or running away from something dangerous, our dispatchers can buzz them in and let them into our lobby until an officer can get there. Dispatching, the dispatchers at night, when it might get a little slow, they can also work on records for any arrests that were made over the night. Currently on Monday mornings, our record staff are busy trying to complete all the records, all the reports that need to be processed to go to our DA's office or wherever they need to go. Dispatchers working at night after perhaps 2 o'clock in the morning, it slows down, statistically it slows down. They can work on that and those reports can be ready to go in the morning. There's multiple benefits, especially now with our supervisor for records who used to be a dispatcher and operate a dispatch center. She's very helpful in showing us all the benefits of having our own dispatch center. You are correct. It would mean an increased cost initially, but you are looking at potential savings on a yearly basis moving forward, similar to what we found when we went to Santa Cruz at the time. We did see savings of up to $200,000 a year when we went to Santa Cruz, and that's how we paid for that initial cost of moving over there. But every year our bill for Santa Cruz does seem to be going up. And so I think it is feasible. We are looking into some funding, because with your telephone lines for your cell phone and your home phone, you see that 911 tax that's included in there. That money, if we qualify, can go to pay for equipment to pay for and install the consoles that we would need for our own dispatching. So it is complicated. It would be a big decision to make, but we're looking into the feasibility so that we can come back and report to the city council to see if this is the direction you might want to go in the future.
Chief, I presume we could also dispatch for our fire department, correct?
We would be planning on doing that, all dispatching. We would offer dispatching for whoever wanted to partner with us. So for instance, if we went down this road and our sheriff's department wanted to partner with us, then we would be open to that as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Resendez.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank the chief for his very candid report. I think we need that type of communication, and because we wouldn't have known all of that if you didn't point it out. So I appreciate that, number one. And then number two, it just sounds like there's a lot to unpack, but there are some alternatives, and there are some pretty equitable solutions that are being presented by the chief and thrown around. So my suggestion would be, since yourself and Councilmember Burns are going to be on the ad hoc for the fire department, I would imagine you guys would get started on that right away. Then I would request that you appoint myself and Councilmember Perez to partner with the PD to look at some unpack this like in a timely fashion and come back with some more options for the council to consider at a different time.
Thank you, sir. Chief, to do it, obviously, I think it would have to be countywide. And I remember when we looked into this early on, I think it was 2013, one of the big things that kept popping up, and I'm hoping there's new technology that can help with this, but one of the big things they were pointing out was the language issues. Santa Cruz can handle, I forgot how many languages now, and other things that we need as part of the process to be compliant. So I'm thinking now with all these years that there's other services that we can do this. Is that why you're pointing this out, that it's possible to do it again?
Yes, and we've recently contracted with one of these services for language lines. I think I signed the first bill this last go around. I think it was $9 for the whole month. Any language, if we encounter anyone that speaks any language that we don't, or our translators don't know that language, we could do it through a phone call. We can do it through a computer, or we could do it through an app on a phone, and it's instantaneous. We make a phone call, we advise them who we are, we have a contract with them, and what language they want to talk, and the person can communicate through the translators, through the phone, and we can get all that information. It's the same service that Santa Cruz 911 currently uses for anyone calling their dispatch center that can't speak with someone who knows the same language.
I would say this is going to be a good conversation to be
Yes.
having, and
Correct.
very important. I know back then when I was pushing for it, it was like, there's no way this is out of our reach right now, but it's good to hear that we
Yes.
could possibly do it again.
Yeah, Mayor, if you mind, for the last about three budgets, maybe, I'd say about last three budget sessions, it has been the conversation is we are now starting to reach that time when it's going to be more cost effective to bring it in-house. Santa Cruz 911 was more cost effective early on, and just the increase in costs have now just kind of flipped it. So it is, I think, at that time that we need to start looking at what the future of our 911 system is going to be.
Councilmember Perez?
Yeah, it's awesome to see you still got your detective skills to pull all this out. I'm just, I think that'd be a great thing. I look forward to working with Vice Mayor Resendez on this also. But like the HDA and the fire department, I think you're doing an awesome job, and through the staff also, and I appreciate all you guys.
Thank you.
I would kind of warn that it's not on the agenda to,
Talk about it
to,
more.
yeah, to assign an ad hoc committee, but I'm sure the city clerk and myself can make sure that's on a future agenda.
Hint,
Correct.
hint.
Correct. All right. I think you skipped over, you want to go
Yeah,
back?
yeah,
to
we're gonna go
item 10?
back, start up about, for actually just really the rest of the groups, the different attorneys that we use. We'll start with our main one, the Epperson Law Group, which is our city attorney. And that contract is ongoing, so there's no really any years left on it. The contract's 10,000. The base is 10,000 per month, and the termination clause is 10 days. Our city attorney does do other work for us. And as well as really the other ones, I'll just kind of hit them at the same time, just kind of a broad stroke, because they're ongoing also. LCW or Liberty, sorry, I'm not even going to do it correctly now. Liberty, Cassidy and Whitmore. We use acronyms too much around here. We use a specialty firm for our labor laws, and also as a recommendation from our risk pool, or actually one of our upper layer groups within our risk pool for using them. Then Best and Krieger, we use them for elections. And JRG was our old ones, and I think we used them for a PD used it for, sorry, Chief, what did you use them for? It was for the badge or for the patches?
Liberty
Oh.
Cassidy and Whitmore?
No,
Yeah.
JRG for the
Yes,
uh,
yes, we recently received, we've been working on a trademark
trademark.
of our
that's-
patch and our badge, because we found some companies reproducing our patch and trying to associate some kind of endorsement. And now they are registered trademarks. So our next step is to reach out to those companies and advise them that they no longer can use our patches or representation of our patch.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we've used them in the past for the rally trademark stuff, so that's why we use them for that one. And then Jones and Mayor, the PD also uses for as more of a industry expert. So up to council, what questions that they have.
Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, really what I'm looking for is a total amount that we spend for legal services on an annual basis, and I'd like to know for 3 to 5 years. And my intent is it's, it has nothing to do specifically with Mr. Epperson. But I'm wondering if we looked at the cumulative total of all the legal fees that we spend, if it wouldn't make sense to bring a full-time city attorney to the city. And I know that it's, again, there would be more than one individual. I recognize that, but I also think our needs are only going to continue to grow. And I'm at that point where I think I come from the early 2000s when the city had a full-time attorney. And I think there would be added value to a person here every day of the week. And I know that that attorney wouldn't necessarily be able to handle all of the special areas that we get through the value of outside services. But I would like to have a more comprehensive conversation about that once I know what the annual costs are over a 3 to 5 year period.
Councilmember Burns, I actually attached financial reports. You saw,
Right.
you want something in addition to?
No, I think that'll work. But again, I know that this isn't the place or the time to make a decision. Right. So, and 4 works fine as well. I just think we may have moved to that next step where our city benefits from having a full-time attorney. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, so you mentioned we pay a monthly retainer to Epperson for 10,000. Do we, and I should have looked this up, I'm sorry. Do we pay monthly retainers to the other attorneys that we're contracted with?
No, no. For LCW, I know we don't. Best and Krieger, we don't. And Chief, do you know on your person?
No, Jones and Mayor, we have no retainer. We just budget a certain amount of money in case we need them. There's been years where we don't call them at all.
Got it. And then JRG, do we know what their?
Yeah, we
contract
do
is?
not have a retainer with them either.
Okay. So that would be, I mean, that would be something I would consider, right? If we're paying them a monthly retainer on top of another fee, then I think that maybe that might add up and we could look at possibly like getting out of those contracts. But if they're just like at will and they're specialized in their field, which I think is a huge value because different attorneys are drawn to different type of law and they specialize in different legal matters, right? So I would be very reluctant to hire somebody in-house because you can't expect that person to specialize in all these different areas. It makes sense that we contract with Epperson. I mean, everybody calls him all the time. He's our, our in-house quote unquote attorney, even though he's not entirely in-house, right? But he does specialize in a specific type of law that helps us as a council. He works with other councils. And I don't have a problem working or having these other contracts if we're not paying them a monthly retainer. They're at will and they specialize in this particular field. So I'd be very reluctant to look at exploring that option at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I do have a couple of comments. JRG, they're not doing any more work for us as far as development issues or planning or anything like that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that was just for the trademark.
It was, yeah, perfect.
I think
I
we-
know they had a good specialty on that. They had some information as far as trademarking, even Hollister. There was a
Correct,
fight
correct.
back in the day about Hollister, and they found that if it says Hollister, California, we can do it, and there's nothing
correct.
the other company can do about stopping us. So I just want to make sure we're not dealing with them at any development issues whatsoever. And it's one of the reasons that I think we chose to change. I can tell you my history here with our attorneys and how we got to the point of having a contract attorney is that first year I remember being here and asking the same questions about how much cost was going on with our legal, because there was an issue that had happened. And I had asked the city attorney for clarification, and it came back where, well, it was a state law. And I said, okay, well, show me that state law so we can understand how to counter this. Half an hour later, it's like, well, maybe it wasn't a state law. I think it's county. And then it was like, county. And a little while later, we found out no such thing. And then it was, I think it's a city law. That's what it was. And then once that didn't develop, it was, I think it's in one of the union contracts. I said, look, we just went from state law down to a union contract. If I'm asking an attorney for advice on something, I want to know an answer. If you don't have the answer, I need somebody to say that clearly up front, because with attorneys, with law, you can lose real quick if you have somebody that's not very knowledgeable. And what we ended up finding out after some more investigation was the in-house attorney alone was nearly $300,000. And it was justified to say, well, that's cheap, until somebody went back to look up all the attorney fees and found out, no, that was just $300,000 for the in-house attorney, not including everybody else that had to be called upon. I remember that first year when we went to a contract, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of fear that we'd have problems. And by that following year, I think everyone on the council at the time said, wow, this is much better deal working with the contract, because they have their specialties within their firm, but they also know who to contact right away if it's not their specialty. And I think with law, one thing you find out, don't try to be a specialist in an area you're not a specialist. If you are, you are. If you're not, say it. And I think at the end of the day, we've had really good results. I've been very happy at our track record. over the last several years. And I think sometimes people will say, especially in the public, well, you're going to be sued for this, this, and that. And then we hear from our attorneys some really sound advice at what the realities are. And we've been, I think, at the end of the day, very successful as a city. And I do appreciate not only the work that your firm's done, but what happened even with the previous firm. And we found that it's worked well. And I think one of the other things we did see in the past was when it's in-house, there's a tendency to create more work than really needs to be. People coming, oh, I got a question for you on this. I have a question for you on this. Like, whoa, these are our attorneys. Put that through the city manager, city clerk, or chief if it's something important. But it should never be where everybody's just coming in and asking legal questions, because that's how you can get into trouble real quick, is somebody walks out thinking they interpreted something and it's something totally different. So I've said this about our contract attorney too. We should not have a system in place where everybody can just reach out and ask questions, because again, legal advice or legal issues are exactly that. They're legal issues, and city managers should always be involved in that conversation, or city clerk. Or again, I understand the police department has to have their direct line to their firm for a reason, because we can all get into trouble pretty darn quick with legal issues. So I've been very impressed. I've thought it's worked really well. And I can say, without a doubt, we have saved a ton of money, not just with our services, but not putting ourselves in a very bad situation. So I've been very happy with it. I would prefer we stay. And doesn't mean we don't, as you know, contracts up. We need to make sure we're fitting that out and making sure we're getting the best bang for our buck. And I think that's what's happened in the past. We realized it was time to shift because the firm was doing a great job, but they were too heavily involved in development. And it was causing confusion and questions. So we should always check that out and make sure we're on the right page. Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, so as I understand with Mr. Epperson's contract, that it is a revolving, did I hear you say that? So there's no end date. So do we put out an RFQ or RFP, or has it just continued to roll over? Okay. So I'm actually, again, I want to be real clear. I have no bone to pick with Mr. Epperson at all. It's really about sound business decision. And so hearing what you've said, Mayor, I would like to put it out and see, maybe we're being underbilled and there's always that risk, but maybe, there are other options out there as well. And so I would like to see something move forward in that regard, to put out an RFQ or RFP.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
So
I got a question. So why is this contract an unending one?
So the city attorney works for the council. That's what they negotiated. So I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, I also too, I think he's doing a great job, but it's like, I thought I had a fast jet ski till I got a new jet ski. Now I hurt my ankle because it's too fast. But, yeah, I think it's wise to get some outside bids also. But, yeah.
I would say that's how you get into trouble. Go too fast. I would say, and Mr. Burns, you're asking a really good question, because what we did do in the past, after several years, was say, okay, let's check, let's make sure. And we did. And the firm we decided to keep going. And then after a while, there was just some conflicts that came up and said, okay, well, we probably have to shift gears now because of this and that reason. But we did exactly that. And I think it's important every few years to make sure we're getting a jet ski that's fast, but not too fast. Not that's going to kill us, right? So I think it's important to always check on it. And
Mr. Mayor,
from our city attorney, I would say this too. It's important to have your feedback on if you see things or feel that something's not going well where it can put us into jeopardy somewhere. Or input are too many people calling you, hey, I got a question, my cat was scared off by the dog next door. We want to make sure we're doing business for the city and not taking you off on a tangent in different directions. So your input's always helpful. Mr. Resendez?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that the individual specialized legal groups are not really up for a discussion because we're not paying a monthly retainer. And then if any of the any of the staff that's there would like to speak as to their experience with their specialized legal services, like the city clerk, it looks like Bess Krieger, I think she just did work with them, you know, the PD, if they want to speak to their legal, and if they're wanting to look for change, then I'm totally open, but I haven't heard any of that. So it looks like we're just looking at Epperson's contract at this time. I think, or if I'm not mistaken, did we just, with the last council, was this brought up and did we do anything to address that? Mr. City Manager, I'm not sure if you remember, it might have been before your time.
I'm
But I
sorry,
remem-
Councilmember Resendez, this is Jason Epperson. Do you mean regarding the contract with my firm?
Yeah, the contract with your firm, I remember that it was brought up, a discussion was brought up about it very recently, and I'm just wondering, was there any of these concerns that are being brought up by Councilmember Burns and Perez, was that addressed at the time?
I
Or
don't
was
know
it
if there were any
not?
concerns brought up, Councilmember Resendez, but it was renewed in, I believe it was May of 2019.
Yeah, and that was by the council?
Excuse me?
It was renewed by the council? Or
Yes.
was, yeah, so I remember we had that discussion, so it might benefit us to take a look at that again. But my understanding was that we did just talk about this a couple of years ago. But we can always go back and revisit that conversation. But I think, again, Mr. Epperson's done a great job from my experience, and I hope, you know, that he has with all of you as well, but he's done a wonderful job, and I'd definitely be willing to look at other options, but certainly would like to keep working with him. Thank.
I would say, to go back to the points that were made earlier, I think maybe we look at a year, 3-year or 4-year point and say, okay, we still have the same attorney, but let's make sure the jet ski. To just make sure. And because you're right, Ms. Rennes, we looked at that as a council, we said, we're all pretty happy here. Let's keep moving forward with what we have. But I do think after so many years, we always need to check.
Yeah, so it sounds it was 2019 that we last looked at it. So if we could adopt a policy saying that every 3 or 4 years we put out an RFP or something, and I'd definitely be open to that.
All right. Do we have any other questions, comments?
If I could,
Go ahead.
just because maybe because Roland mentioned it, if I can just say, I love BBK and I'm grateful to have them and be able to work with them, and that even though I work with them, I run everything through Jason as well. So just so you know that.
Questions, Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd actually like to hear from Mr. Prado. I presume at some point in time, you're going to need a CEQA attorney or other development attorneys. And if you could talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Burns, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So yes, when it comes to CEQA, our city attorney is always with us at the planning commission level. Also assists us with the public hearings in regards to findings. Every resolution should have findings when it comes to CEQA, and so we provide all that information to our city attorney for his review prior to our meetings, and then he attends our meetings as well in regards to making sure that these findings are correct and accurate before the planning commission's decision. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? City manager? do you
Well,
have a comment?
I was going to wait till there was any more comments, but I was going to try to get a little bit clearer direction from council, because I heard doing a RFQ, but then I heard we should do it in 1, 3 to 5 years. So I'd like to try to get maybe a little bit better direction of where we go.
If I can, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So just so I'm clear, and I hope my colleagues would support me in this, my position is that we just renewed his contract in 2019. If we want to include some language in the saying that we revisited every 3 to 4, maybe 5 years, then I'm okay with that. But as far as looking at renewing the contract or putting on RFQ, I would be opposed to that at this time. Thank you.
So you're looking for a 4 or 5 year to RFQ.
I think that's a fair way to do business. You know what I mean? I think that's the honorable thing to do, in my opinion.
Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't completely disagree with the vice mayor, but I would like to see the time frame less. If it was done in May of 2019, we're a little over 2 years now. And so I would think either a 2 or 3 year window. And I think the time is now to put it out because, you know, by the time 3 years comes up, I don't want to have to wait 3 years to start that process. And so maybe we push something out in January of 2022, and that will give us time to move it forward. Thank you.
Basically, every 3 years, what you're
Yes.
thinking.
That's what I would say also. At least to bring it up to check it out.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that kind of works, correlates well with the new council always coming in and getting an understanding, because that's what we're doing here tonight, really, is then getting a good understanding of the contracts and what's going on out there and why they're there. So
May I also ask for clarification that I am adding police ad hoc to August 19th or 16th? Or September?
You and I will discuss that one.
Thank you, sir.
work that out. Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Resendez?
No, I'm just for a point of clarity. So Abraham, Mr. Prado said that he's not using JRG. He just uses our attorney in-house.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, then what do we use JRG for?
They were doing some work for the police
Trademark.
department as far as
Trademark.
trademark.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Do we have any speaker part or any comments from the public? All right, is there any other questions, comments from council? Anything else we'd like to know about any of these contracts? Are we good to move forward?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, is this all of our contracts? I know there was a little bit of discussion about that, Christine. Is this everything?
I can answer that. This is not all, these are all our contracts with the attorneys. But I mean, we have numerous contracts throughout the cities, but these were the ones that were of interest of the council.
Okay, can we, I hate to put more work on you, but can we get a list of the contracts and just have that, like maybe a total list of all the contracts so we can have that, so that if we want to have another meeting like this, I think it was very helpful. We can pull together some other contracts to look at.
That we can do that. I'm trying to think and talk at the same time, and it's not working. How small a dollar? I mean, we have copier, lease contracts. So I mean, that's you're more looking at professional contracts.
Yeah, I'm talking about the major professional ones, and it might even help to have like a cloud document to share or something. You know what I mean? Just to keep that updated. And I don't know. I think
Maybe I shouldn't use numerous. It should be. It's not going to need a cloud-based to store. So, but yeah, we can get that to you.
okay. Thank
Probably
you.
look at some of the engineering or different things
Correct,
going on.
correct.
I can
How
say
far
this is
back do you want us to go? Or do you want just current?
it's just
Yeah,
current.
I would ask if you could just do current, because I mean, like I say, that we are using engineer Kimway Horn. We use Wallace Group. These are two that are presented to you. David Hurley for the general plan. So yeah, we'll get those together.
Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. City manager, one that comes to mind immediately for me, again, and I know that we're 11 months away, but I would really like to better understand the rally. I'm presuming that we're going to be through COVID, but I presume that last year as well. But my understanding was it was a 5-year contract, and it's been the next rally would be 3 of 5, but then how does that work when 1 and 2 didn't happen? And so I would like to really have a comprehensive conversation about the rally now or soon, so that we're not scrambling at the last minute on that. Thank you.
I would agree.
Yeah, no, that's been our discussion after the so-called non-rally or that we had over 4th of July. And staff, we've been discussing what the rally is going to look like early, so that I don't mind trying to get the promoter here and have a good discussion about that.
I think if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I think what the council member was saying is that, are we going to count the first 2 years of the contract? Or are we going to consider extending the contract? Is that a better way to put it? Mr. Burns?
I'm open to those conversations, Vice Mayor. I would like to understand the contract in its totality. And I don't know that there's a clause in there to extend it just because it didn't happen, but I think that's why we need to have a broader conversation across the council. And for me, the first goal is to seek to understand it first and then move forward. And again, this is where I think an attorney is a very valuable asset and resource for us.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't want to go to a conversation about it because I have a lot of comments, but since it's not agendized, we cannot talk about it. But having a conversation and understanding some of those discussions from last year would be important and fair. And
Correct.
again, getting it done early and having these conversations is called good planning. And I'm 100% in favor of that.
Mayor, the other thing I'd like to better understand while we're at it is I'm losing my mind here. The downtown planning or the booth that.
Oh, the Parklet
Parklet,
program?
Yeah, there we go. I don't know, just brain fog.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to better understand that as well, because at some point there will be maintenance issues. And I assume at some point we're gonna have a drunk hit one of them. And I'd like to understand the risk, the liability, and the big picture is really what I'm looking for on those as well.
Yeah, we don't mind agendizing that so that you know that we put that onto the Parklet individuals.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else from anyone?
I would just like to add real quick, hope Jason lets me go off topic a little bit, but I really appreciate the staff from Recreation, the Yard, PD, Fire for all the things that they did over Saturday to get the downtown closure. The greatest thing that I saw were all the smiles on the faces of kids of our community, and that was such a pleasure to see that. It made it all worthwhile. So I thank you, council, for allowing me to close the streets as necessary.
I don't know. I was frustrated. I hit a perfect putt and somehow went right past that cup. So,
Yeah, I did the same thing.
I think I got set up.
I think that actually it was lacking one thing, competition between the council.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Well, Tina, okay.
I'm.
Or you know, city against county.
Yeah.
Well, there's no competition there, so.
Ooh, it's a beautiful event, so thank you. With that, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Sorry, second,
Second,
roll call, please.
Councilmember Perez,
yes.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes, thank you.
Vice Mayor Resendez,
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez.
Yes,
The motion carries 4-0.
thank you.